Hey guys, it's Joe from Finding Faith. I hope you guys are enjoying the videos that I've been posting so far, even if you're not at that point where you're ready to really take that plunge and start attending church or give your life to Jesus. I still hope that my videos are encouraging and making you think about, the lifestyle that you live, whether you are on the right path and need to keep going down that way, or whether you're starting to realize, maybe there are some changes in my life that I need to make. And there are changes in my life that I need to make too. So it's okay if you find yourself in that place. The reason why I bring that up is because I need to keep reminding you guys, I need to keep reminding myself, I'm not doing this channel for me, I'm doing it for you guys. I want you guys to be getting stuff out of these videos. So I value your feedback. If you think that something that I'm saying is stigmatizing or completely wrong, I want to examine it, see where you might be right. Of course, generally speaking, I'm gonna take what some people have to say with a grain of salt, just because there are hostile people out there. But with that said, I still value people going out of their way to say these things to me, even if they are overwhelmingly negative. In any case, this is a video that I've talked about wanting to do for a little while, and I decided tonight, you know what? This is a perfect night to film this video. I want to boast of my weaknesses. I'm part of a missional community through the local church that I attend, and it's basically just, we try and meet up as a group, talk with each other, help each other through stuff, work through a book of the Bible. We're in Philippians right now. We also want to try and encourage each other to go out into our communities to, talk to people, to just generally be lights to the world like Jesus talks about in Matthew. So on the way back, I was talking with this one guy. He doesn't go to the same church, but he lives locally and he's still connected through the missional community. And one thing we were talking about is really this issue with masculine culture, and that could be its own video in and of itself, but one of the highlights that made me think, this is a good night to do this video, is the idea that men feel that they have to be tough all the time. There's kind of this perfectionism. There's a lot of pressure put on boys and men, and I don't think that's right. So I want to do little things here and there to break that cycle. And to me, this is a really good place to start. What initially inspired this is when I first heard 2 Corinthians chapter 12, verses 9 and 10. The context of these verses is Paul is talking about how he was praying to Jesus because he was being possessed by a demon. And demonic possession in the Bible, when it's talked about, it's just all kinds of horrible things are potentially happening. You can even see this in movies that portray demonic possession. I'm sure many of these movies are actually pretty accurate. So what Paul does is he prays to get the demon out. The demon doesn't leave him. And then he asks Jesus directly, says, Jesus, please free me of this demon. And Jesus' response is very interesting and actually brings out a lot of Paul's great faith in a way. So in verse 9, Jesus' response to Paul is, but he said to me, this is Paul quoting Jesus, my grace is sufficient for you, for my power is made perfect in weakness. I want you to think about that for just a moment. I'll wait. Now, it's okay if you haven't directly ascertained exactly what that verse means. It's one of those you have to kind of sit and think with it. But the idea that's being got at here is we all have weaknesses. If we didn't have weaknesses, if we didn't have these sins and these problems, we wouldn't need Jesus. That's where Jesus' power shines. Where we are weak, he is strong. Paul says that in verse 10 at the end. So I want to break this pattern of idealistic, hyper macho masculinity a little bit by boasting of my own weaknesses, and I would encourage you to do the same. It doesn't have to be public or anything. It doesn't have to be on YouTube like I'm doing this. It can be with maybe one friend. It can even be by yourself or in your prayer life to God. So we have these weaknesses and these imperfections, and God still loves us through them, but that doesn't mean that he loves those weaknesses about it. We still have to work through them. We still have to turn them to God, try and get past them. They're still a part of who we are, but they don't have to be anymore. And because of who God is, because of who he's called us to be upon saving us, because of the standard that he has, we need to be trying to get rid of these weaknesses. If you're just beginning though, I think it's really good just to acknowledge that they exist and just being, for the moment, just okay with that. And then taking action. So that's what I'm going to do for you guys right here tonight. Yeah, I have... Goodness, guys, I have so many weaknesses, and I feel like I get exposed to more and more of them the deeper I go into Christianity and just into the Bible and speaking with friends and everything. Sometimes that's discouraging, but at the same time, I also know that it is very much a call to action. I have a hard time focusing. I am very bad at being in the moment. It's not natural. I'm thinking about, what comes next, whether it's immediately or within, a few hours, few days. Because of the way that I tend to be busy, it's very hard for me sometimes to focus on what's going on right at that moment and just really appreciating what God is doing in that moment, or just even what's happening in that moment. Just the beauty of it or the pain of it. Further, I don't like pain. Tonight, we went through the first chapter of Philippians, the second half, where Paul says that pain basically is part of God's gift. God has gifted us with pain and suffering, and I don't treat it like it's a gift. I hate it. And, you can get back to Hebrews 12:11 and say that discipline makes us stronger, and I know that on some level, but, I would take any alternative to the pain that comes with discipline. Any other way, I would take it. But that's not what God wants from us, and I wish that I could acknowledge that more often. I wish I could live by that more often. I can think too highly of myself. I don't always put God first. I think, whoa, I did this, and I get kind of, happy on my high horse, but, in Obadiah 1:4, God basically says you can go as high as you want, but I'm going to bring you right down from there. Doesn't say when that'll happen, but it's going to happen at some point. This is a big confession for me to put out on YouTube. I sometimes get social anxiety, particularly if it's a large crowd, particularly if it's in a small space. You will almost never see me at a concert. Most kind of games you're not going to see me at. Or if I am at one of those situations, I'm going to want to leave early to avoid the crowds as much as possible. And it's hard for me because I don't understand why I'm like that. And I'm trying to get past it. Sometimes it's, better than others, but, it's one of my weaknesses. I can be incredibly needy. I don't think about all the wonderful things that God has granted me with, the fact that I'm in a relatively nice house with cool roommates and with an opportunity to talk with you guys on YouTube and potentially help who knows how many people this video might eventually reach, whether or not it's at the time you're watching it or a year from then. I have this extraordinary opportunity. I have an amazing opportunity through school to study a field that I love, and yet I'm thinking about all these things that I don't have all too often. I can be extremely conceited interacting with some people who I know what the answer is, I know what makes sense, and all I'm doing is I'm thinking about how they're wrong and I'm right. I'm not putting God into the equation at all. Sometimes when this kind of stuff comes up, I'm just thinking about how I can direct them, how I can help them, and I make it all about me, and that's wrong. I can just mentally complain in the moment. That happens way too often. I can be impatient, especially in grocery store lines. I can be impatient, waiting for a Lyft driver, and it turns out he's at some other address because the Lyft location tracker thing is not always the best. But that happens, and it's frustrating because they'll only wait, 1 or 2 minutes for you to show up. I get frustrated talking with people who have different opinions and aren't willing to listen to alternatives. I understand that most people are that way and that I can be that way to a certain extent. But with that being said, it's frustrating when you're trying to say to someone, well, they think this way because that was how they're raised, but then they respond with, that doesn't matter, or, they should be able to see a much bigger problem, or why can't they empathize? And it doesn't matter if I, share in those thoughts a little bit too. I'm still thinking about how the person who's trying to reprove the other person is just coming at it from completely the wrong angle, as opposed to thinking, they're hurting too, as opposed to thinking, we all need God, as opposed to thinking I've been in their shoes at some point on some level. I can sometimes be fearful and nervous about sharing the gospel with my family, with friends, with random people that I meet. I make up excuses. I will sometimes share. I know that's not always wise in the moment to share, and there's a plane going that's getting my patience tested. I don't know how easily you guys can tell that. It's true though. These are that is something that I struggle with. I get frustrated when someone says that they'll do something and they don't do it, or when I get canceled on, or when I don't understand why someone is acting a certain way and why it feels like they can't be direct with me, because I try and be direct and proactive with people. It doesn't feel necessarily unreasonable that other people should try and respect that and return the favor. But at the same time, I also know, rationally speaking, that we're all so radically different, and that relationship is trying to talk with people and understand how they're different and how you can ultimately come together and work with each other. And I have a hard time humanizing people. I don't love saying that because that's something that I really want to emphasize with this channel. This is something that is extremely dear to me, that I want to see fixed in the world. It is a problem within me as much as it is within, potentially you, other people. It's still within me, and I hate that. And worst but not least, you may have gathered this not just from this video, maybe from my other videos. I'm a perfectionist. I want everything, to be as right as possible. I could almost see how that could get me down the path of legalism in Christianity, which is a subject for another video. And it's admirable, I guess, to want to try and be as pleasing to God as possible, but I tend to burn myself out on that. And that's me boasting of my weaknesses. As you notice, those were really just character weaknesses, traits that I'm trying to work on. There's other minor weaknesses, just about, things that I'm not capable of doing. Like, I'm not capable of whistling. Isn't that sad? I can't actually whistle. I'm not a musically inclined person, so I can't play the guitar or the piano or anything like that. I spend too much time on Instagram and all that. But it is my hope that by watching me just now talk about my weaknesses, that you understand that the God that I worship, the God of the universe, the God of the Bible, the God is a God that is so loving that despite this perfect, overwhelmingly holy standard that God keeps, just because that's who God is, that despite all of that, He gave His Son to accept people like me who just fall so incredibly short. You may be able to relate to some of my weaknesses, you may have other weaknesses. God is still willing to accept you. You have to accept Him. And I want to do something now that I haven't done in any of my videos to date. I don't know if I'm going to make this a consistent thing or not. It may also partly depend on how you guys respond to it. If this really weirds you out, don't feel obligated to hold back. If you like this, please let me know. But I want to pray now. Lord, thank you for the work that you are just doing in my life. Thank you for just being a loving God who's willing to accept me and so many others despite our weaknesses, who just cares so much. I trust you with my entire life and my entire existence, and I know that you are far more loving than I ever would be if I were in your shoes. And I pray that you would just help me to work on my weaknesses that I listed, to just generally turn things to you more often, and that with this video that you would help other people, particularly men who have a hard time talking about their weaknesses, to feel inspired to turn their weaknesses to you, talk about their weaknesses with others, if that honors you, but just to really see that you are not a God that wants us to just be always talking about how great we are, or just pushing everything aside. You are a God who wants us to come to you with our hearts, Lord. Thank you for that. And I just pray that you would continue to work in hearts all across this world to bring people closer to you in this area. Pray these things in your name, Lord. Thank you. Amen. Alright, hope you guys enjoyed the video. I don't know what kind of response this is going to get, but, it'll get whatever response it gets. Don't forget to comment, like, subscribe, spread the word. I look forward to hearing you guys' response to this video, whether it's positive or negative, and hopefully I'll see you guys in the next one. Have a blessed day or blessed night.